I call to order this workshop of the Brookings City Council for Monday, August 24th at 5:58 p.m. Can you call the roll?
Councillor Malmberg.
Here.
Councillor Gelada.
Here.
Councillor Bond.
Here.
Mayor Pareda.
Here. Okay. So we have one topic today. That would be the Urban Renewal Facade Improvement Grant Survey.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, tonight we're going to discuss at this workshop the survey that we were asked to do a few months back. I think it was May 1st is when we started putting the survey out. And real quickly, there was a great question answered. We had 52 responses, and earlier was asked, how many surveys did we send out? I think the total was 261 surveys. We did via email, and 7 of them bounced back, so we sent out those with hard copies. So, and out of the 261, we had 52, which is, I believe it was 19.99% participation success there, which is about average. As I stated earlier, some of the survey companies say anything between 10 to 30 for something like this is average to good. So, a lot of common themes that we'll talk about tonight were, concerns about vacant and deteriorating properties, several older buildings in the downtown area, and the things that I get stopped and asked about, are about when it concerns downtown is, doing something with the vacant buildings, and that's been addressed as well. And some of these buildings are up for sale, some of them are not up for sale, but there's been lots of discussion about, renovations, reusing, also finishing exterior work, and or redevelopment of properties that are no longer viable. So I'm going to discuss a little bit tonight in a little bit more detail about the assessment overall of the grant survey, just so make sure we're all on the same page here. And we'll get started with the first slide that's up. Those are just a few samples of some of the facade improvement that we have done throughout the city, and it's more in particular in our downtown area, which if you drive by, most of those businesses, they look really good because they participated and were successful in getting matching grant funds to help with the facades of their buildings there. We'll go to the next page. The Urban Renewal District, this is what we put out. So we're always, essentially looking for better ways to do things. And this is why we sent out the survey back in May. And we also supplied everybody with a map just to make sure that they knew what the Urban Renewal District map was. And that's on the next page there. So if they had any ideas, I'm going to make sure that, if they were actually in the URA district map, they could take a look and see firsthand that they were. The next page, the next slide is just essentially going over the guidelines. And I've given everybody here tonight a copy of the actual application. So if you know somebody that is considering applying for a facade improvement grant, you've got an application in hand to give to them if you'd like, or if not, they can come by City Hall. We'll certainly supply them with one of those. Essentially, commercial buildings and property owners can receive up to a $50,000 matching grant per business. Means that the owner will be reimbursed of half of the approved cost once the work is paid in full, the project is completed. And I understand we talked about possibly altering that as far as the program goes too, and we'll discuss that a little bit in details. Maintenance repairs, paint, dry rot, window replacement, landscape improvements, those are all can be reimbursed up to 50% with a maximum match of $50,000. The full facade renovations may be reimbursed up to 75% with a match of $50,000. And the minimum value of any project to be considered is $1,500. And there was also some discussions about design consultant fees. When a professional designer is utilized for the project, they may be eligible up to 10% of the total project cost, or $5,000, whichever's less. And again, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in detail as the possibilities of, for some of these really small businesses to go out and actually have to, hire a professional designer or architect to do this is a little overwhelming for some of these folks, and we may be able to assist them with that as well. Go to the next page. This is just a real quick historical data of everybody that's received a facade improvement. We've been doing this for exactly 20 years now, since 2006. These were the ones that were completed and within that year. And if you go down some of these, very familiar businesses. And we've had, I believe, also some of these that have received, if I'm not wrong, we've had multiple facade improvement grants and some of these folks, I believe. And the next one has got more of the 2009 through 2021 URA funds that were utilized. I wasn't here during the recession, but I'm assuming, Tony, that, it's probably one of the reasons why we don't have a ton of grant recipients at that particular point, was because we were going through a pretty tough recession nationally and locally here as well. So just go down the line there, you can see a list of businesses that were able to take care of their facades utilizing this program. Okay, we'll go to the first question here. Before receiving the survey, were you aware that the city offers a facade improvement grant? This is one of the topics that I think we obviously can do better, because 53.8% of the folks that responded to this said no, and the 46.2% said yes. So we will be reviewing and making some recommendations, and we're take any suggestions by the council as well, as far as getting the word out, as far as the program goes. I know we have done things through social media, and I believe we've sent out some stuff in the past, but I think, we really need to, I think one of the most difficult things is we have business owners that are out there that are leasing, a facility that may not be interested in doing any improvement. So they're kind of up against a wall there. They can only do so much. But we've had some success with tenants working with their landlords, the building owners, and working with us and getting something done that's of quality work. But we can do better. The next slide is what is your connection with the Urban Renewal District? As you can see there, 30% are the property owners, and 38.5%, almost 40%, are the just the tenants, or maybe a combination. The next one below that is 55%, both the owner and the tenant. Some of those are residential property owners and residential renters, and we got a few other ones in there too. So, but that's if you ask, the people that are taking the survey what their connection was, this is what their connection was as a result. Our next slide there. Would you consider improving the exterior appearance of your building or storefront within the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years? 52 responses, and very optimistic. We have quite a few people saying that they'd be very likely doing something in the next 3 to 5 years, or consider improving the exterior of their building in the next 3 to 5 years. Below that is the next level, which is the 23.1%. So as you can see, 84.6% of the folks that did the survey are either very likely going to try to do something in the next 3 to 5 years, or somewhat likely, but they would definitely like to see some improvements. Next slide there. What type of improvements would you most likely consider And there was no just selecting one answer. They could select as many as they wanted. Exterior paint was by far the leading one. New signage, another one that a lot of folks thought could, utilize. Exterior lighting, which is 53% of them. The awnings or canopies, about 36%. Then we've got, landscape improvements, about 51%. So there's a pretty good variety of things. Windows, almost 25% of them would likely consider replacing some windows. Entryway improvements as well, that's quite a bit, 44.9%. So as you can tell, we've got a lot of things that people would like to consider for their project, and we'll see if we can help them get there. What size project would be realistic for your property? About a little less than 20% said under $10,000. So that kind of tells you, some of these folks aren't looking for, massive grants here. They're looking for, something within reason. Quite a few that between the 10 to 25,000. We've also had some over, 100,000. As you can see by some of the historical data, we've had some businesses put in well over $100,000 in facade improvements to their business. And of course, not all of it was matched by the city, but portions of it were. Okay, go to the next slide. For an exterior improvement project, what level of matching funds would you realistically be willing to contribute? Overall, I think there's a healthy mix between the 50% of the project cost. We had several folks put in, 25%. And some are being more realistic and just says, well, it depends on the size of the project. That's a big portion of it. And we had a few that were willing to do, 60%. And then we had some folks in there that essentially said they're not really interested in participating in the program, even with grant support. So our next slide, this is one of the ones that came up, which I thought was very promising. It said, would a smaller quick fix or first impression grant in the range of $2,500 to $10,000 for simple improvements like paint, signage, lighting, awnings, would you be more likely to participate in that? And overwhelmingly, yes, almost 60% of the folks taking the survey said yes. Only about 20% said no, and then the other 20% were maybes. So we do know we have a lot of people that have some small businesses out there, small buildings that would like to do, would possibly look into a quick fix first impression grant. Would a design grant up to $5,000 to help hire a designer or architect to develop a facade concept make it easier for you to consider a larger project? 34% said yes, and then we had about nearly 40% said no. So, but we do know that that was brought up. I don't know if it was one of the workshops or one of the discussions about that being kind of a hang up for some folks, just getting off high center and being able to move forward. Finding an architect or somebody that can help design that is a bit of a challenge for a lot of these folks here in Brookings. I mean, we are somewhat limited to number of architects and folks that could design something like that professionally. So the next slide is what factors may prevent you from applying for facade improvement grants. Project costs would still be too high. Anybody that's got a proposal for a project of this magnitude, especially over the last 5 years, have seen obviously a significant increase in, going through the pandemic and looking at the cost of doing business today versus what it was 6 years ago is substantially higher. We also see matching fund requirements would be difficult to meet. 18 of the folks that took the survey, which equaled out to about 36% of the people that responded to this, said that that would be difficult. I mean, we're talking about some of these small business owners that have limited means. What other factors? Some folks said that the reimbursement is a bit of a roadblock for them too. Again, we talked about possibilities of being able to work with them and not necessarily have them put up, the 100% of the cost right up front. And if we can work with them in some form or fashion, that might be a way to do that. Some folks felt like the application process was too complicated. I mean, if it's your first rodeo and you're trying to figure out, the application process, but I also will say we have staff here that can help, facilitate that as well for them. But those are some of the, I guess you could say, minor roadblocks. Some are major roadblocks for some of these folks. The other one we've heard numerous times is difficulty identifying contractors and obtaining estimates. I know firsthand on just some minor projects I've had done with my home, just finding contractors that want to work at a certain level can be difficult, because if you're a good contractor, if you're a good GC or a good contractor, electrical, plumber, whatever, you pretty much set your hours and when you want to work and how much you want to work here in Brookings, because we're very limited with the number of contractors that it's still competitive, but those of you, like I said, have been in that boat before. Sometimes it can be very difficult finding qualified contractors to do that. So anyway, we'll go to the next slide here. Are there properties in the district you believe would benefit from the redevelopment or removal of blighted structures? We had about 43% said yes, that they believe that there are some properties within the district that could definitely benefit for the redevelopment or removal of some blighted structures. About 50% said they weren't sure. Only about 8% said definitely no, that there are no properties within the district that could benefit from a program like this. Some additional some additional comments that were there. We had several comments, and I didn't just flower it up with all just glowing good stuff. I put in some other stuff there too. I mean, some people had some impressions that we're really not interested in helping small businesses. All we want to do is talk about big projects. And I just mentioned one a few minutes ago. It's a big project, but it's the wastewater. I mean, that's something, our infrastructure, we can't just keep deferring maintenance on it. Those are things we have to look at. But when it comes to the URA, there has been discussions of some substantial projects, but we also know that the facade improvement program it's out there for any business owner or commercial building owner to take advantage of, which, for a city our size, I think is pretty nice. We also had some other folks, Council Member Gelada sent over some stuff talking about some of the other cities that, some of their programs and what they had put in place. And we've included some links to theirs as well. A couple of those cities, I believe, Forest Grove and Woodburn are cities of approximately 25,000. Beaverton's got close to 100,000. So, but I think it was Forest Grove. I mean, I think their max was 25,000 for the matching part of it. So I feel like this is a very competitive way of doing a facade improvement. And people, we did get some kudos and thank you for helping with some of the renovations that have been done out there and making our community a little bit more business friendly. We also had some folks, talk about the need for possible, more EV car charging. We've had people talk about, where's the one here? The last one in there had quite a bit to say in that one, but they felt like in order for us to do a more successful job at getting the word out, maybe we need to do some more face-to-face time with some of the folks, getting out there. I think, I visited with Tony, and he said in years past, we've had some council members that had talked about with the facade improvement program about, spending a couple afternoons walking, up and down and talking to some of the business owners, maybe with a staff member, and talk to them about, facade improvements. It's a delicate line. You face, hey, we were walking by your business and we just noticed something, and we don't want to be insulting, but
I'll use this.
yeah. So, but we do want to be upfront and let them know, hey, there may be an opportunity for you here with some funding to make some improvements to your business, because as all of you know, especially small businesses, that first impression is extremely important. And that curb appeal is extremely important to whether or not you want to go eat at that restaurant or go shop at that store. And that's their first impression when they walk up to or see your business. So I think it's very important. We also had quite a few people talk about certain buildings that they would love to see something get done. And I couldn't agree more with them. I mean, we do have some folks that have, owned some buildings, commercial structures that I just let them set for years and some decades that are just sitting there. And the last city I managed, we had a gentleman that owned 3 buildings in downtown Weed. And he just, after he bought them, he just let them rot, literally rot. And last September, almost a year ago, some 10-year-old kids climbed in through one of the back doors that wasn't secured and thought it'd be cool to build a little fire, and ended up burning 2 of the 3 buildings down. Which is devastating to a small town like that, and it'd be devastating here too. But once you have a blighted property, and if they're not secured, then you're going to have issues like that, and we don't want those issues here. So we want to be able to be proactive in going out, because, as all of you know, I mean, we stay really. We talked about this a lot here. We stay busy during the summer months, the tourist time of the year, starting in probably late April all the way into October. Those are our busy times. And I jokingly say, if you don't believe me, just go to a Fred Meyer during the summertime, and it could be a Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the parking lot's packed, because we got a lot of people. Harris Beach, I mean, I think their car counters was like 2 million visitors total a year come.
The day visit portion, not including the camping grounds.
Exactly. And it is, I've had 2 full summers here now as the city manager, and I'm very impressed with, but I know we have our shoulder season. You generally start in October through April, that we've got to, figure out what else we can do to support small businesses. And I think something like this and having a program like this would definitely help, because we need to be able to attract folks to come here during the shoulder season and do some shopping and spend some time, spend some money here in our community, help the small business owners. Because one of the number one things I hear from the small business owners is, especially the folks that are retail, service-oriented businesses along the corridor here, is trying to figure out what to do during the shoulder season to get more people to start visiting here. And we're going to talk about that with TPAC when that starts to roll out with the TPAC committee, and trying to figure out ways of this is just one part of the cog here, and it's beautification. And when we talk about landscaping and storefronts, that's extremely important. As I said before to this group and others, when you go visit some of your favorite cities to go visit, I mean, what is it that you see when you go over there? And it's usually a very healthy, thriving downtown, and people take a lot of pride, and that's what we need to get more folks here involved in, and some of the business owners and some of the building owners as well, is to try to figure out a way to get the word out and have more participation. I mean, we definitely went to these folks. We had all these business permits and so forth, and we've, notified. And yeah, 20% is not over the top as far as a survey, but in certain ways it is, because it's hard to get people to fill out a survey. I don't know about you guys, but I was on hold today and for about 15 minutes, and after they got done, they said, we'd like to keep you over for just another, 2 or 3 minute survey, and I was up to here with it and said, nope. And because it's hard, we all get asked to do these things, but I'm very thankful and grateful for the folks that spent the time and energy, and some of them put a lot of thought into their responses, as you can tell, and deeply grateful for them to do that. So, and like I said, if you have any questions or any suggestions as to, improving the program or figuring out ways of getting the message out, I think now would be a great time.
I think the biggest success of this, it's great that we're talking about this, but I'm really happy that we sent this survey out, because it sounds like 53 some odd % of respondents weren't aware of the facade improvement program, which was a big goal, right? We had talked about it in previous workshops. We said, hey, how do we make more people aware of this? And so that was right off the bat, that's a big success. We made more people aware that it's out there, whether or not they personally are interested in participating or not. Hey, maybe some of them aren't, that weren't otherwise familiar with it. I think a lot of business owners probably, I don't know how many of them, but maybe own the business, but maybe don't live here, and maybe don't watch city council meetings, or, aren't aware of the opportunities afforded to them, not being, here every day. So I'm glad that we did this survey. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
And to address that, I don't know if we talked about this prior, but we do have a connection with all the business owners where they have to get a business license and they have to renew their business license, a one-page handout with the business license that just points them to the website. Did you know? It's just real summary. Again, getting people's attention. Don't give them the application. But a summary. Hey, are you aware that this is a service provided by the city? And if staff could look into
Now we have
what it would take to make that happen.
Well, we have a captured audience there. If they're here, might as well. And it doesn't have to be a big packet.
That's right.
Just give them a card with the information. And I think when we call it a program, people are like, but if you call it a grant, I think more people get excited about, there's a grant from small businesses. That's where I think you can start doing that too. So we can definitely talk, work up some sort of card or something, so when the people do come in, just say, here's the link to the page. It's got all the information, so if you'd like to participate, we'd love to talk to you about improving the facade of your building.
And then we already have, it's 10% up to $5,000 of design work, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that could be up to $500. Forest Grove just has a $500 grant towards design services. And then if you want to get more design services, the city would provide up to half of the next $500, so $750 out of the first $1,000. We've seen that the design hurdle is a big one to get over. So, like I said, well, we already kind of have that to some extent, 10% of the first $5,000, but that's putting out $5,000. But I don't know, we could reach out to, like you said, I only know of one architect firm in town, but maybe, I don't know if any GCs offer design services, but we could reach out to them and say, is this realistic for somebody to come in with a $500 grant from the city? What are they going to get?
Yeah.
They're going to get an hour.
Tony, we have an architect right here that's probably a good resource that can when we have somebody that comes, I'm going to say, so everybody come in and just use Tony for free, right? So, no, I'm just kidding. But
well, the other hurdle here is contractors will turn into designers if you allow this.
Yeah.
Right now they do it without a designer. Most of them. I'm going to say probably 90% of them do it without a designer.
When you say they do it, who are
The
you?
property owners and the contractors who are doing these.
Who do these projects?
Hire designers. I was hired back in the day for a couple of them. But, I didn't charge very much. It was very little amount of money. So $5,000 is extreme. If you start offering that carrot out there, then like I told you, the contractors will turn into designers and double dip.
Definitely.
So, it should be a licensed professional architect or engineer if you're going to put it down.
And I can tell you from my experience with the wall up at the cemetery, there's one engineer in town. That's it. And he's actually not in town, he's down in Crescent City.
And then one door over.
Yeah, exactly. They're few and far between.
So what would you recommend, Tony, is if you have a building owner down there that's wanting to do, let's just say, look at maybe $50,000 worth of work done on his building, what would you recommend as far as the design work goes? Not naming a person, but
I don't really know.
it'd be,
I mean, if they can find an architect or designer, or licensed professional, then yeah. And they're willing to prove that they're a licensed professional and they have a fee for what they're doing. I think it's something that the committee should be able to consider. I don't know that I would offer it out there like immediate, like in the packet. I think we could consider if they're using a professional designer because they need it. Then, but like I said, I haven't seen that happen. We haven't seen very much of it in all the applications we've received. So.
even with some of the bigger facade improvements?
Yeah, it's mostly the contractor that's designing either on elevations. I think a good example, two of them right here on this first slide. State Farm, that was the Bruce team, Josh and Sage. And then Pacific Sushi, that was Brett Kemp. So they provided the design for that. I did Record Theater years ago. I don't see the list here. Checo Plaza, that was me. Bird Vision Mausoleum, that was me. So it's just Loring's Lighthouse back in the day, that was the contractor. Robertson Associates, that was the owner. So there's just not a ton here that really stand out as like Fitzgerald Building was the contractor. That's my offering. Now, I don't know, the trend could change where what's left to do is pretty major, so maybe they do need structural engineers and licensed architects to really accomplish something at this level. Or we say, go hire a roofing contractor to do it. Suggest hire a roofing.
Yeah.
These are big projects.
Yeah.
I mean, these two that I showed you are really big projects. The Redwood Theater was a pretty big project too.
Well, and one of the things that, as a result, by just some of the things that were said and done was, develop maybe a smaller program for just the quick fix, paint, those type of things, first impression type things.
It seems to me that based on these responses, a lot of the people feel like they're going to struggle to afford it, but they would be willing to participate if we could have a small quick fix that would allow them to do some paint, some things that can not be a high cost, but make a big impact. That might be a helpful lift to our small businesses that would be willing to put in some type of,
Well, if I could respond to that, we haven't denied an application for that, the size or, if somebody wants to come in and do $10,000 worth of stuff, we're not going to deny their application. We just don't get them.
right, but a simplified process of, I just want to do paint, I want to do, that's going to require less lift on their part to get the whole application filled out, or what if they're going to,
Okay, so let me respond to that. The lift, most of the lift here is finding contractors to do it. And that low amount, that's going to be challenging to get 3 quotes. So unless we're going to throw out on the table the procurement policy, that is really the only thing we can really do to help this situation. Finding contractors and getting 3 quotes. Those are the biggest hurdles that anyone submitting an application runs into. Not the cost, at least the ones that are submitting applications. It's not necessarily the cost. They're committed to doing that work. They've shown that in some of the projects you've seen here in the list. But it's that part that's really challenging, and we can't overcome that unless we're willing to change the procurement
Well,
policy. Period.
What about I mean, I know that sometimes the city often doesn't receive 3 quotes when we do a major capital project. And I think as long as we show a good faith effort, we're able to get around that. Is there an opportunity for the owners of the business to say, hey, I've asked this person, got no responses. I got 1 response from this guy. As long as they show that good faith effort, are they able to?
We accept that.
We do accept that? Oh, okay.
If they need a decline from the contractor, they still cannot achieve that.
So if we're talking about, let's just say, paint, awnings, and signs, is that something they are going to have a hard time finding one person to, if they can put out 3 different requests, are they going to be able to get a person to respond on that?
If it's $2,500 or more, they have to get 3 quotes, or they have to get a quote and 2 people to decline.
And it has to be a decline.
Yeah.
At which you're probably going to get no response, right?
Yeah.
From a contractor who doesn't want
We'd like to
it.
see, I mean, anyone can write no response, but we'd like to see like an official, I just don't have time to do this work, sorry, I'm gonna pass. That kind of thing. That's what we're really looking, that's what the operators are. That's what they should be looking for.
Sure.
Rather than just, oh, we couldn't find anyone else.
We're just talking about having standard documentation that we have to do as a city to prove that we've gone through these processes to justify the use of taxpayer dollars.
It's all built into the application. The information they provide in their application, it's all built into that.
I'm just wondering if, it sounded like some people feel like it feels overwhelming to them. And if maybe they just want to do some paint and signage and are going to spend under $10,000, is there a way we can make it maybe not feel so intimidating or handhold them through that, talk them through that process? Or it made me feel like that's how some might feel, like they don't even really know what to do, even if they would like to do it. And, there were, 30-something% that said they just didn't have the funding to do it. So if there's a $5,000 paint improvement, is that something that the city could just provide if it's going to be helpful to the overall facade of the city as a whole?
Yeah, we would entertain that application any day.
So are we making that clear to the business owners so that they would understand
It's
that?
up to 50,000, right?
Yeah.
It says it in the application.
Most of,
See, up to 50,000 in matching grant funds per business.
yeah.
But that's
You're saying that.
that's matching. I'm saying, what if we had smaller amounts for some very minimal work like painting that we would just give them the whole lift, so that they, especially for some of our really small businesses, that maybe that would be, like you said, make it more beautiful and attractive to people driving through, but maybe they don't have the money to pay the half because they're barely getting through the year once September hits until they start making funds again in April.
I found a city of Sweet Home, Oregon, great name. They offer 100% of the first 5K.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, and that's something we can definitely take a
I mean,
look
there's
at.
definitely more. I know Pendleton has done this. Independence has done this program. Gold Beach, Reedsport. Like, there's a lot of communities who have these kind of programs. So I think we definitely could get more examples of what their programs look like. But if that would be something that would aid a really small business that would like to do something to help the whole downtown area look better, I think that's something we can leverage these funds to do.
And maybe, I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe we say, we'll do so many of these types of grants per year. So make it a little bit competitive where it's not just an open-ended.
Yeah,
So then
maybe.
that way, it and the faster you get your application in, the faster you might be approved for something like this. So kind of put a carrot out there and just, capping it and capping a time frame.
There was one comment that disheartened me a little bit, that they felt like that staff or council are skeptical or resentful of this expenditure, and whatever we have said in this public space that has led to that conclusion makes me sad. I don't believe that is at all the case for any of us. I think we're highly supportive of this program. So something we said must have left that impression. I want to make it clear that that's, from my perspective, certainly not true. I think we have legal requirements that we have to abide by, and maybe that leaves that impression, because how do we balance that? How do we balance?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, these are taxpayer funds, and these are taxpayer funds not just for the city of Brookings, but they're taxpayer funds from all the taxing district that have been redirected to develop the economy of our area. And when it comes to the big project, from my perspective, one catalyst project can make all the difference. You have one big catalyst project that helps the off-shoulder season, let's say, of like a community space or some type of an event center that brings people in those off-shoulder seasons. That's aiding the entire city and all of those businesses, rather than just piddling little pieces here and there that are aiding some and yes, making somewhat of an impact. So from my perspective, the big projects is more better return on investment for the whole community to really push us in a direction towards what an urban renewal agency is intended to do. But certainly, I think where we can, and I fully recognize the money and the energy to invest in that when they're already just trying to get through and survive till the next season. If there's small things we can do or even bigger things we can do to aid that, but I don't think that precludes the conversation of a big project, because that can be something that we're giving them $5,000 to paint. If we put a huge amount of money towards one big project, and that could change the whole trajectory of their business, and where they don't even need that funding any longer from the city to be able to move forward with those projects. So I just wanted to really clarify that I think we're all very supportive of these expenditures, but we do have legal hoops to jump through.
Yeah, and that's what Tony had mentioned earlier through our procurement policy. I will also say we have, finance is working on updating our procurement policy to bring before this board or this council at some point too. So maybe that will loosen up some of that as well, because it's pretty, the thresholds are pretty low right now as far as have to come get approval. Maybe something where it's not as restrictive. Not saying we just want to open up the checkbook for everybody, but that's something, but because these guidelines and these grants have to fall within that procurement policy as well. So,
do we know when that dollar amount was put in place?
which one?
In the procurement, in the procurement policy?
I can tell you when I first started, it was 1,000. I worked my butt off to get it to 2,500 because it was really challenging to have to get quotes for projects at $1,000. So I'd say 2014.
When was that?
So prior to
2014.
COVID.
So prior to COVID and just expenses in general rising. Okay.
When the city submits for bids and quotes, do you have a list of recommended suppliers, recommended contractors? Or how do you submit out for the fencing?
It's really challenging for us because we don't want to be an entity that recommends contractors and
Sure.
put yourself out there liability-wise. And then everybody's like, well, how come I'm not on the list? It's super challenging. So we have a list where we basically say we're not recommending them, but this is a list of local contractors. Somebody who has a business license with the city, I think we have them on the list.
Okay,
But we do provide that.
perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
So you're getting past that hurdle of finding people. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's not necessarily specific to the song.
Now getting them to respond and say no.
Maybe we'll get a form and just say, if you don't want to sign this,
So low in
yeah.
funds that it's really good. It's going to be challenging.
Is there a requirement that it's a local contractor?
Well, they have to have a business license. So we've had out of town contractors with a business license.
Because, I mean, I don't know. Seems like you could call a lot of places, even in Medford or whatever, and provide, I was just making sure that we weren't limiting them to only local contractors who we know are pretty busy, right?
Yeah, but it's going to be less likely that somebody's going to drive from Medford and incur the travel costs
Yeah,
to
but-
do these, you know, a $5,000
Maybe
project.
easier for them to get 3 responses, though.
Right, yeah, for
We
sure.
have an application right now where we're doing has 2 out-of-state, or contracts from Medford and that's passed. We get them.
I mean, ideally, there, of course, we want local, you know, if
But on your
possible,
list of
but-
contractors, you're also including county business licenses, right?
No, I think the database that we have is our business licenses.
Okay, because there's some contractors,
On the list, is what I'm saying. It's
yeah,
one of those things, where, you know, you're gonna be doing business in the city of Brookings, you need to get a business license. So then you get on the list. Transient business license.
And did you have other ideas about what your number one here of quick fix or first impression? Did you have other ideas besides what we're talking about with
Well,
a small grant?
yeah, I think that's going to be one that I think that's an easy one to overcome, the quick fix grant. I do think we're going to have to do a better job of our outreach and letting folks know, because obviously half the business owners and folks that responded to this didn't even know that the program existed. Of course, we also know we have some commercial buildings. If you've been here long enough, you've seen, you know, multiple businesses come and go through there too. So sometimes, or, you know, I'm not trying to make excuses, but, you know, some places are known to churn through quite a few small businesses as well. So, but I do think having that outreach is important. And like, you know, Tony was saying earlier, we kind of have a captive audience, and Councilman Gelada, you had mentioned too, when they come in to renew their business license or to, you know, get set up with their utilities, you know, this would be a great time for us to say, hey, here's a program that you might want to take a look at, and just, you know, to get the word out a little bit better. I know we do, you know, things every once in a while on Facebook and a couple other social media reaches, but not everybody is, you know, following the city of Brookings.
What about some signage in the urban renewal area that says, you know, poster type signage that says, downtown businesses, do you know this is a option for you with your business? I think different people receive information in different ways. And I know for me, the signs when I'm driving into town and I see the advertisement for the Pirate Festival or for the Christmas Bazaar, that's where I always end up seeing them personally.
So maybe if we did these campaigns with a temporary sign for so many months.
I mean, just one idea, one
Yeah.
more way of trying to get it, people's eyes on it. And, you know, I think when I look at these responses, 58.8% said a quick fix or first impression grant would be something they would be likely to participate in. That's more than half of the people that submitted said they would be willing. And then what prevents them from participating? Project costs would still be too high, or matching funds would be difficult to meet. So if these were small ones that could be a light lift and maybe they didn't have to do the matching, and, you know, maybe we do limit the number, but that might actually incentivize some more participation.
so what would it take to do the quick fix at 5,000 instead of 2,500?
Well,
I mean, the cost of paint alone, how much that alone has gone up just from painting my house 10 years ago to now.
Yeah.
it's huge.
Okay, so going from 2,500 to 5,000 is not an unreasonable thing. Especially when paint's $500 for a 5-gallon bucket,
Yeah.
just for white.
That's something, like I said, with the procurement policy update and a few other things, I think we can take care of that pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it would be worthwhile to even just look at like what does inflation look like since it was put in place, and
Versus now.
so I mean, like, yeah, there's definitely, since COVID, it's gone up so much. So is it really leveraging the same amount of dollars as it was when that policy was put in
If you
place?
take the politics out of it, it's realistically 100%. Since pre-COVID, realistically.
One thing that I noticed on here, and it's the other side of this thing that isn't comfortable to talk about. We're talking a lot about the carrot. We're not talking about the stick. Respondents expressed concern about long-term vacant deteriorated properties, including X, Y, and Z. I know that we've done a lot of work recently on the vacant property registry, and I just wanted to ask the question that we've been following up on code enforcement of some of the properties that the siding is falling off of the building, or the facade itself is clearly, deteriorated. That's probably not the right topic for a public meeting, I guess, but I just wanted to throw it out there for a topic of consideration. That's the other side of this thing. We're doing a lot on the carrot here, but there are some, very few property owners that just, are letting their properties sort of disintegrate, and it's having a negative effect sometimes on the adjacent properties, and that's not fair to them either. So.
No, I agree. I think we should, a future workshop topic just to talk about vacant property management.
And we did, I believe it was last year, implemented a vacant building registry. I know Lori Zemer was starting that, and our new planner coming in, I think that's one of the projects. We'll stick him on that as well, and along working with Michelle and trying to get some of these buildings, because we identified, it wasn't a ton of, vacant buildings, but some of,
Half a dozen?
a few more.
Jump out that, yeah.
Within the URA, and in this area. But yeah, there's some out there that I purposely, I didn't want to put, because some people made some very disparaging remarks in some of the comments about certain buildings and businesses, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, and I don't think we want.
We don't need to belabor
discuss
that.
specifics, but
No, but there are some.
The same.
Yeah, there are some buildings out there that have just have deteriorated, and it upsets a lot of folks. Yeah. And people come to us and, well, you need to do something. You need to do. I was like, well, this isn't Russia. They own a building. We tell them they have to fix a building, or that they're out of compliance. And that's what we're, here for. But it's tough when you, like I said, when you have, viable buildings that could be utilized for commerce that are just sitting there deteriorating instead. So, and
Only so much we can do about that, though.
yep, very limited to what we can do about that with property rights.
And the other question I had about your possible future actions, number 2, you're talking about expanded eligibility for landscaping, signage, and exterior improvements. Well, I read there's a lot of flexibility in the current plan. I wondered if you had ideas about that, because I almost read, landscaping and signage is mentioned on our website, and I haven't read the document here, but well, even, the number 7 at the bottom, page 3, all signage on the property must be made code compliant. There's suggestions about you can already update landscaping and signage.
Yeah.
Do you have ideas about what expandability would be there?
Tony, do you have any? I can't really off the top
It
of my head.
seems like it's already fairly
We're
flexible.
covering the majority of it right
Yeah.
there. So
What about, on some of these smaller projects, are they required to have a licensed contractor do just smaller stuff? Because, a lot of this is, some of these smaller improvements a person can do without a contractor's license. Are we limiting them to a contractor doing that work? Like if it's just some paint,
Paint and signage.
We're limiting them to the law. So if you are a painting, if you paint and you have a certain income as a painter, you have to be a licensed contractor to do that work. Then if you're the property owner, that's a different story.
That's what I was getting at. If you were the property owner of a business and you wanted to get a brush and a roller out and make it look nice and just looking for a little help on the paint, is that an obstacle to someone? Or, is there, what we're doing here tonight is trying to look at obstacles and see.
Reduce barriers.
Right, so.
Yeah, and I think in the past, we discouraged painting as the primary reason for the facade improvement program. What we're looking for is updating the facade, which includes windows or window trim treatment or awnings and things like that. The paint is part of the project, overall project we would allow, but generally we have not been awarding any money to somebody who just wants to do paint. We've actually denied an application for that. They have to include other things involved, which is facade improvement. Paint is more maintenance, and that was something that the committee back, when we started this, we're not really here to offset maintenance deferrals here. So we're looking for design improvements to the facade to really kind of catch people out of it. But I think that we've lightened up on it. I know that we haven't received any applications recently for just paint, but this quick fix opportunity might be able to open the door of that. Right now, we have an application for landscaping and signage. So, and that was something that we didn't do before. So we are doing it now.
It seems like,
It's opened up.
yeah, including paint. I mean, even a minor improvement sometimes can make a big difference to some areas, property that might otherwise look pretty run down.
Well, I hate to give a history lesson, but I'd like to just keep it in perspective. I've lived here all my life, and our downtown is way better than it was. We had over 24 vacancies in 2008 and 9. So we had, before 2005, we didn't have sidewalks. We didn't have street trees. We didn't have, there's a ton of improvements that have happened downtown just because of what we've done in the right of way. Paving, parking, city parking lots, and all the, like I say, all the trees we put in the sidewalk has really spurred a lot of activity in our downtown to make it what it is today. Yes, we do have a few buildings, and I'm saying like 3, maybe 1 that really looks bad. But just keep in perspective, we're on, our pace on our downtown is at any level, any coastal community, I would say probably better. I've driven to a lot of communities on the coast, and ours, to me, even though I've lived here, my life stands out still as one of the top.
Well, I think we're doing great here, and I think we're all living here because we think that. But what we're doing here tonight is figuring out how we can make it better.
Yeah.
So,
Would you say that's mostly as a result of the URA, the improvements?
The URA was, when it was created, its intent was to really beautify our downtown, and it starts with the right of way. It starts with standardized light fixtures, trees, curb gutters, and sidewalks. All that stuff wasn't around before that. It was a lot of gravel, some curves pretty broken up, unpaved parking lots. The parking lot in front of Ken's, Pinecone Tavern, front of Ox, and Black Trumpet Bistro, that was gravel up to 2005.
So we want to keep the momentum. That's what you're saying. Yep.
Purchasing property or leasing property for parking lots, that all of that is, over 20, 30 years, has all contributed to a much more positive development of downtown. I feel like, we put this out, I feel like we've had a great response. I'm just being.
Well, it's hard to pin down 52 people. You're talking about the survey itself?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to pin down that many people to take an actual survey too, which is, like I said, a bit of a challenge, but it's nice that we got those results in, so.
And I understand the argument saying that paint's simply maintenance, and it is to some extent, but a fresh coat of paint can really beautify a deteriorating building. There's verbiage in URAs and such to talk about not using it for maintenance. Is it allowed to provide this quick fix for paint?
What is that, what's the definition of that would be my.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm throwing it out there,
I'm
yeah.
not sure, is our urban renewal plan state that? It's something for.
I thought, well, I don't have it in front of me, but I thought there was this is not a maintenance update. If you're, and I don't remember, I don't think you can repair a roof. I thought I remember seeing something like that.
And the facade improvement program is really to take an old building that is sort of outdated and kind of update it. And most would argue that paint is not enough to do that. You need to add some other elements, maybe window treatments or doors, windows.
Oh, and I agree completely, but if they're not going to do anything, but they might paint, I'd like to
Lighten up on a lot
yeah.
of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes paint can definitely make a space look more updated. I mean,
Yeah, we're seeing that on the building.
on and out, and an exterior, I don't know so much, but definitely on an interior, it can really make a big impact.
So next steps?
I've taken notes, and I'll go back and listen to this again to make sure I got everything down, but maybe coming up with some guidelines that, kind of match with what the results of the survey. And looking at, like I said, with some other cities, not reinventing the wheel. If there's somebody that's had a lot of success out of a certain part of their facade improvement program, maybe we just duplicate what, the good thing about this is, we have the ebb and flow to be able to do, make changes when and if we feel like it's necessary too, so.
I had a conversation at the mayor's conference with the mayor of Central Point because they used urban renewal. And she was talking about how much their downtown has changed. And she specifically mentioned, we used to have in our downtown, insurance companies and these types of businesses. And now we have all these boutiques, etc. So I approached her afterwards and I said, can you tell me what you did to spark that type of change in your downtown? And she said, honestly, it really wasn't us, it was business owners. We had one boutique business come in that made a huge change in what that looked like, and then they worked with, they encouraged their friends to come, and so I recognize very clearly that there are things we can do, but there's only so much we can do too. And so much of, I think cities, residents' perspective is, why did you let XYZ be in this space when a property goes for sale and somebody chooses to buy it, and that's not necessarily what the city would elect to put in that space. So we have to remember that it's free enterprise, and so there are only so much we can do, even if what we would like to see happen might be different. So I just thought that was really interesting because I really wanted to know from her, tell me what you guys did to move it in that direction. And she said really nothing. It was a property business owner. So I do think those owners in that area can have a huge part of coming together as businesses and trying to work and collaborate together. That may be more powerful than anything we can do as a council.
Yep.
So just as a suggestion, maybe you could reach out to the mayor in Reedsport and find out what they did. Because 3 years ago, downtown Reedsport was a ghost town. There wasn't one business on that strip.
They also have a Main Street program.
Exactly. And that Main Street blew up in 3 years.
Yeah, they have that. They have both of those in partnership, Main Street program. They also do, I think it's once a month, they do like a big street market where all of their businesses come out and they have a street market. So they definitely have done a lot of innovative things in that small community. Their mayor is leaving at the end of this year, but their city manager would have lots of information for you, for sure. They actually just talked about some of those programs at the last regional meeting just last Thursday.
Every time I go north, I go 38 because it's the best drive to get through. And of course, you cut off right there in Reedsport. And yeah, it was 4 years ago, it was dead. There was nothing there.
I will say that one of the things they did mention was that they had someone who had moved away, moved back to town, and they've had a benefactor, a generous benefactor of somebody who has come in and investing back into the community that they grew up, because now they have funds to do that. So
That's great.
yeah, I know for sure that's been a part of some of that.
Well, we can definitely take a look at some of these suggestions and come back at a later date, and whether it's via a workshop or just a quick update, we can definitely do that as well, so.
I like the idea of offering, we could limit the number of quick fix grants, and then we could see how that goes.
Yep.
Seems like the liability's controlled.
Yeah.
We could see what happens.
What number are you looking at for that? What would you guys, you don't have to decide, but if you were to poll it, what would it be?
$5,000. But then, the update to the purchasing policy may have to be considered.
That's going to be a lot.
I'm sorry, say it again?
That said, the procurement policy is a much longer discussion.
I understand that, and I think one not necessarily has to do with the other.
But
that now there's a challenge of getting quotes for the
Yeah.
5,000,
But we can also, we can bring back those for council approval if needed, so.
I think painting contractors are a lot more willing to give quotes on just paint. Because that's what they do. That's their specialty, when it's included, all inclusive. So I guess what I'm saying is if we do a quick fix, it doesn't necessarily have to be 2,500 or less, because I think you're going to be able to find painters that would be willing to quote. So with that said, what number would
You guys think 5 or 10?
5 or 10,000? And then have in budget time, we want to discuss how many of those quick fix. Right?
Yeah.
To allow, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Anywhere in that range, the 5,000, maybe up to 10. But I like Councilor Gelada's idea of limiting exposure. That was the biggest challenge that I had with earlier discussions about 100%. Participation was liability and exposure for the city. But if it was strategically implemented in a way that protect the city's interests, limited number of them, limited dollar value, seems like that might be a reasonable way to proceed.
Okay. All right.
Any more discussion? Okay, then we'll move on to D, council member requests for workshop topics.
I will tell you, we're going to be coming forward probably within the next month or so and talking about some changes to our fire code that has been a hot topic for the last year. And we've got some suggestions. We want to run that through you guys real quickly before we bring any revisions to the fire code before you, so.
Is this about the urban renewal agency?
No. This is the fire code.
Okay.
I'm talking about workshop.
Workshop topics.
Workshop topics.
Okay.
I'm just saying that on down the road, we might bring something down the road to talk about our existing fire code. So inspections, fire marshals, all that fun stuff, so.
Like in terms of the urban renewal agency, future discussions, again, working on our priorities.
Yes.
Love to see that happen.
No, and I would like to have a discussion about the vacant buildings. I mean, if nothing else, it's what are we doing now, and what other cities might be doing.
And we did a workshop on that about a year ago, but I can definitely get you all the materials and the things that we did as a result of that. So.
I can tell you that we do have a registration. We do have a registry. They pay the ones that are vacant. So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else.
Well,
I've just read that incentives have been more successful than the carrot, as it were. And I don't necessarily, philosophically agree with that, but I have read that other cities have been more successful with incentives to the owners than penalties.
Interesting.
well,
And that's all. Yeah. Like I said, I don't necessarily agree with doing that, but that's what they have been successful with.
Both sides, for sure.
Yeah.
Councilor Bond?
Other than getting a 3-agency workshop together on Social Security Board, no, I don't have anything else at the moment.
But we had one a year ago.
that's,
I need to review that.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I think maybe you could send out the staff report on the last one. Just to
Yeah.
remind everybody.
yeah.
Point of reference at least where we left out.
is,
Sounds like it didn't resolve the issue, so.
well,
We implemented what we told. I mean,
yeah. so-
Well, the city implemented what they felt that they can do. I get that, but you got two other agencies involved with it that need to step up, right?
yeah,
We love that. Because we get fewer calls and fewer comments, so.
and if anybody wants any more detail on cameras, they're welcome to come in my office and chat.
Yeah.
I got enough detail. I was shocked when you said that.
Information on what we, how we set them up and how we use them, and where the feed goes, and what we do with the information. I can share all that with you guys.
But we're responsible for the entrance. Okay, so you got a video camera and an entrance. As long as they go across that border, it's not our issue. So there it is.
And that's what the majority of.
Sounds to me like the perspective is though, because they're accessing it through ours, we're the ones letting them in, so it's, they're seeing it that we're part of that just by allowing access through there.
Which realistically would set up for a liability where something bad to go through that gate, shall we say? Because the city let them through.
There's no gate.
So, but you have
It's
two other
it's public,
agencies.
yeah,
There's no
it's,
gate.
there isn't a gate.
It's 24/7.
The entrance, yeah.
They can drive it. Same as liability for people going into the parking lot.
I'm not-
Yeah.
Not arguing that, not arguing that.
Yeah. I feel for those property owners, and I know they've got issues out there, but we can talk about that too.